Do you remember what the first thing you ever watched on Netflix was? For me, I know exactly what it was. It was a TV show called House of Anubis. Capitalizing on this random interest, I hurried to go and watch it, only to open it up and immediately be hit with the fact that my Netflix account has been blocked because I'm still using my family's one and we aren't in the same household. Not deterred, after texting my mom to get the code and logging in, now moderately annoyed, I found that I couldn't even watch it anymore because they had just taken it off of the website. Bored and annoyed, I did what any other 20-something-year-old who's not immediately given their dopamine fix does and opened up my phone to see the following headline. Needless to say, this is not great, and this whole experience got me thinking, how did we actually get here? And is all hope for the future of television lost? Or perhaps, put more simply, in January 2007, Netflix as a paid streaming service was born, and just a few short months later, Hulu, a streaming service that was free but with ads, was also born. And at this point, your decision was pretty clear-cut. You could opt for Netflix if you wanted to pay a small monthly fee for no ads, Hulu if you wanted something that was free but still with some ads, or cable television, which had ads, and yet you were also paying easily $50 or $60 a month for it. Netflix did raise the price of their DVD service. Does anyone remember this? I feel like I'm the only one. But all things considered, I think most consumers could understand why, because Netflix was new. And I think a key thing to note here is in the explanation that Netflix's CEO gave for the price increase that I will paraphrase here. Netflix needs to err on the side of change rather than complacency.
We knew that that was going to be temporary. No one thought we'd be mailing discs for 100 years.
We innovated in the DVD rental business by delivering DVDs to your house rather than making you walk to a store.
There's a better way to rent movies. Go to Netflix.com, and in about one business day, you'll get 3 DVDs. Keep them as long as you want, without late fees.
And we're innovating again by thinking bigger than that.
All the core strategies, etc. We're like the anti-Apple, you know how they compartmentalize, and we do the opposite, which is everybody gets all the information. And so what we're trying to do is build a sense of responsibility in people and the ability to do things.
This is perhaps one of the few cases where having little competition in a
capitalistic market
was actually a good thing. As Netflix and Hulu grew, production companies and consumers soon became disinterested in cable television. The most common complaints and reasons that drew people to cancel their cable television subscriptions were the following: rising prices, the fact that consumers were forced to wait around for broadcast times, ads, bundling a bunch of useless channels, and finally, a lack of portability. You had to be at home to watch. Debatably, Netflix and Hulu both solve all of these problems. Netflix's cost at launch wasn't something I could find out, but in 2011 they had one plan, which was $7.99 a month. Hulu launches their own paid version in 2010, and Amazon Prime also releases, but Prime Video is glitchy, and so no one really uses it, for good reason. It's still terrible. I don't know how Jeff Bezos can't figure this out. To compete with Netflix, Hulu drops their pricing, offering a reduced collection, but at a cheaper price. Now, if you can do math, you'll know that $8, or even if you bought both at $15, is a hell of a lot less than $50 or $60 that customers were paying for cable television. Consumers could also watch content immediately when it dropped. There were no ads, and you could reliably expect Netflix to have the most popular content that you wanted to watch. You just might have to chill out and wait a second. Of course, as Netflix profits rise, so do the prices from production studios for Netflix to host their content. Rather than running ads, Netflix is forced to find another way to raise money. In 2013, Netflix was undoubtedly on top of the world. So on top of the world that they actually occupied an entire third of all internet traffic, with YouTube trailing in second at 17%. However, all of this comes with an even bigger upset. Netflix would also start making their own TV shows. They were no longer just an aggregate site for film and television. Now they were a production studio too, with October of 2013 seeing the first ever Netflix original release, House of Cards.
An hour spent watching House of Cards, say, was more
profitable to you than an hour spent watching someone else's licensed content.
And so it's really about making the brand stronger so that more people want to join. And House of Cards absolutely did that, because then many people would talk about it and associate that brand with us.
I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the show because, to be honest, I haven't seen a whole lot of it, but the reviews were popular.
House of Cards, and Kevin Spacey in particular, absolutely nail it.
And there was a general sense that Netflix's innovation had worked. All of their innovations seemed to have the consumer directly in mind. However, I do think towards the end of this time, you can start to see that there is blood in the water. These years mark the definitive decline in Netflix's quality and their market share. 2019 saw HBO Max, Disney Plus, and Apple TV all release to instant success, with Disney Plus and HBO Max having the largest. Peacock came along in 2020, which caused Netflix to lose access to shows like The Office.
You are such an idiot.
Paramount Plus came in 2021. Hell, I think you can see why this was the era when it all started to go terribly wrong, when you remember that Quibi was a thing. A terrible idea of a thing, but a thing nonetheless. If a company like Quibi has enough market research to think they'll succeed with a vertical-only streaming service, doesn't it make you nervous for what's going on behind the doors at all of these other streaming giants? With every big company releasing their own content, Netflix was quickly, and still is quickly, losing a lot of the content that made their subscription worth it, as production companies pulled their movies from Netflix to bolster their own streaming services. It's also worth noting that after all of these years, Netflix's prices had been steadily climbing. In just 4 years, Netflix's pricing of their standard plan had increased by 30%, vastly outpacing normal inflation. This increase in pricing, combined with the release of multiple streaming services, understandably had customers frustrated, mainly because it looked like digital streaming is going the same route as cable television. Prices are higher, but what was Netflix or any of these other streaming services actually offering that made them worth it anymore? I think this is a problem you see with a lot of tech products or services, where you have a really innovative start and a really amazing product, but at a certain point, you're sort of locked in at the top, and the only way to go is down. Netflix got all of their subscribers with a simple premise: a cheap sell to watch basically any television show or movie with no ads. But now Netflix is falling, and more than that, Netflix is failing. Friends, The Office, Doctor Who, all of these big TV shows just get pulled and get put onto another streaming service. House of Cards had ended. No big surprise there, fuck you Kevin Spacey. Stranger Things ratings were starting to drop with season 3, Narcos was over. After all of this, Netflix is still raising prices. But I feel like even their Netflix originals were being outdone by other streaming services. HBO Max, and even Apple TV in particular, was and continues to still do, crushing them in terms of quality. I mean, literally, I can't remember the last time I got excited about something that Netflix has either added to their catalog or made. It feels to me like Netflix is now the old guy that's slowly fading away while other services begin to take the spotlight. Their recent attempts seem to only be keeping them afloat, and barely at that. They feel more like desperate grasps to maintain market share than the pre-planned intelligent decisions that they were making before. We've reached a point where Netflix, and I think by extension all of these other streaming services, feels identical to cable television before Netflix came in and changed the scene. The pricing for one streaming service continues to increase with no reward. Amazon Prime Video started the paid-for services with ads again, and Netflix has followed suit. They've all gone back to weekly or semi-weekly broadcasting, so you can't even binge watch new content as soon as it comes out. And that means if you have a new season and it has, let's say, 16 episodes, you're waiting like 4 months to get this entire TV show. And that could be the only reason you're subscribing. And to be honest, I find all of this password crackdown stuff really stupid, because I think it's clear from their design that their previous plans already kind of had this in mind. Like, you can't tell me they assumed 4 people in the exact same house are all going to want to watch something different at the exact same time on different screens. I think this measure prevented mass password sharing, but their extenuating crackdowns now are just so stupid. Like, it's so stupid. I don't understand. Let's talk about where all of this could take us. I've specifically left out one topic until now: piracy. While you'll find a lot of conflicting opinions and research on how much movie piracy actually affects sales from legitimate businesses, I found one scientific article which I think is pretty important to mention. Studying the effects of piracy and the online availability of films, the article found unsurprisingly that piracy increases when content is available to watch on Netflix. That's not really that big of a surprise. A more critical piece of information is that if films are available on another streaming service and are swapped from Netflix to Paramount Plus, for example, piracy rates still increase. This means that if there is a cheap, easy option for consumers to use, they'll usually gravitate towards that over illegally pirating content. Think about how music piracy is basically dead now because Apple Music or Spotify has 99.999% of all the music you could ever want. But with each company now trying to have their own service, they're ultimately just hurting both the consumer and their bottom line. People simply aren't paying for these services just because they have one or two of their favorite shows. They would rather illegally pirate content, and that's only getting easier and easier with the rise of sites like Soap Today or Putlocker. I don't claim to know what the future will hold, and it's entirely possible that I'm completely wrong, and all of these streaming services will just continue to live on and make more and more money. And eventually, you'll be forced to pay the same price as a cable TV subscription was. But I also think the opposite could happen. And if I was one of those corporate bigwigs at Netflix or Disney or Amazon, thinking that I'm on top of the world and that I can continue to raise prices and shove ads down viewers' throats to support rising licensing and server costs, I'd be careful. Because just like how Netflix came along and changed the whole world market, something else might be lying in wait, able to change everything in just a few short years. If you like this video, subscribe and follow me on all of my social media channels, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.